Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay.
Do you often have dreams at night? And if you do you remember them? What would your dream life look like? If you could begin to conceptualize. So I just wanted to start this episode off with some of these questions, and I want to actually take this episode and really take it as an exploration, as I always do for any other episode that I post. But I say this intentionally because first, let's take it from here. Why do we have dreams at night? It's a common collective human experience where I can't prove to you that dreams are real, but you know they're real because you've experienced it for yourself. Something unseen, but it's just experience in its wholeness, right? And by that I mean like immersive. Like we get immersed in our dreams. Where I know when I have dreams, they feel so real at the time. And in those dreams, I swear they're real. And the other side of that is the people who have lucid dreams, or who have that awareness that, oh no, I'm actually dreaming here. I'm actually not in the real world. So there's like a variety of ways how that works, and the dream world is such an interesting thing. But if I could, I want to begin by just kind of answering that little tidbit there, at least my understanding of that. Why we dream at night, the way I see it and how I understand it, is that first and foremost, I want to preface that we're all a soul with a physical body. And there's this connection, this anchor to our physical body that they make a reference in the Bible called like the silver cord. It's what enables us to be anchored in this body, to have these experiences here in this planet. And when we dream at night, we go to sleep and we drift off, we actually go back home. And where's home, you ask? Out there in the universe. God. The All. That has many names, but we're talking about the same place. And being here in this planet takes a lot of energy to be here, more than you may realize. And it's definitely important that there's a reason why that we spend a third of our lives sleeping, because it's that period of time is when we as a spirit experience rejuvenation. People always say that sleep is so important, because they mention it, how it's important for the physical body. And it's true. But what I've come to understand is that it's not so much that my body needs it, but it's more so as a soul, I need renewal. I need spiritual renewal. And to go back home to check, so it's like going back home, going to sleep, like checking out of a hotel, and going out there to rejuvenate. And then the next day comes and we check back in and get into the next daily adventure. That's the important reason why we dream. At least that's a huge part of it, is that soul renewal. It's funny because I'll share this, and people always can swear left and right about the optimal amount of sleep. But I think I feel like there's so much more layers to it that I think that there are people that don't sleep optimally, and my apologies. I just noticed my microphone was being a little bit too loud here. But anyway, just checking the sounds here, making sure it's not too strong. But I believe that there are some people that actually can go on for like 5, maybe less hours, like unless it's optimal, and still feel rejuvenated. Because there's so much to sleep than what you may think. And so, but the other part of of why we have dreams has a lot to do with it's a gateway into our own subconscious. It's how our spirit guides communicate with us, and whatever we experience in our dreams holds clues to understanding what's going on in our current lived experience, our current living experiences. Because we're all here on this journey together, going through this school, experiencing our own unique life lessons, each and every single one of us. And being and dreaming enables us to help, can be a gateway to help understand what's going on, what's the big picture of our experiences, why are things happening the way they are. And so this brings me to what I had gone to a recent workshop this past weekend. I went to this festival called Lucid Dream Festival. Shout outs to John and the gang to put this together every year, and they've been doing it for several years now. And it's a nice festival where there's like live music, and there's performances, there's a lot of social gatherings and people meeting, and it's like a multi-day experience that's pretty awesome. And there's a lot of workshops and a lot of teachers sharing their practices and such, um, that I think has been, for me, has been very powerful and that I appreciate. And I had gone to this one workshop that was all about practical dreaming, and he was sharing some tips, some lenses, some good questions to kind of run through myself in evaluating my dream experiences, to kind of get into the essence of it, because he definitely shares the same sentiment as I, is that dreams are not just dreams are there and we just cast it aside, right? They hold clues to what's going on. And so he asked some really good questions. I'm not going to go over that, for this episode, because I don't necessarily think it's relevant to where I want to go in terms of the direction here. So, getting into the practical dreaming and all these sets of questions. And then I remember that there was a part when he was like asking, like, you know, do you all? And I had asked this before. When you have dreams, do you remember them? And he was given his opinion that if you don't remember your dreams, that it can at times be a symptom of, or it can be indicative of, perhaps you're moving without a sense of purpose. You don't have that sense of purpose locked in within you. I'm paraphrasing here what he said. I'm not saying verbatim exactly what he said, but something to that effect. And part of it for me kind of was like a little bit stimulated, because I was like, okay, because I'm all about purpose. I always talk about the big picture of life when I share and teach people. It's something that it's important in my life, and it's what helps me. It's what's helped me cultivate that inner peace, having that big picture understanding, or knowing that there is a big picture of life, and then it's not just all chaos. There's some overarching, some sense of balance and order in the universe. What often comes is interpreted as chaotic is just the lived human experience, the emotions, the things that we color in what we perceive in our environment, in the internet space. And so I thought that was very interesting. So now it leads me to another question, and that is, why dream? So let's take a moment to just, shift from, the whole dreaming aspect, like nighttime dreaming, and more so about why dream, or in other words, why have aspirations? In some sense, it could also be like, why have goals and things like that? And I personally think that a lot of it has to do with why we dream links very deeply to personal fulfillment. Not to kind of get it to want to embellish anything like that, just to kind of get it simple here. And also I think why we dream, why we have I think there's also an element of desire. We all have genuine desires, true heart's desires, I would say. It's and it's like having dreams. In one sense, what I think about is that it's almost, in a sense, it's like dreams in this case is like a remembrance of what we chose to, a remembrance of our own personal decision to be here on this planet. As I mentioned before, we all came here to experience life lessons. We all intentionally came to this school called planet Earth. And I think it's important to dream because I think in some sense it's like kind of reconnecting with our soul part. And that also includes honoring our own direction, aligning with our own direction in life. Because we all have our own unique path to carve. Each and every single one of us do. No one's meant to walk the same path as another because we're all unique spiritually. There's not one person out there that's exactly like another. Meaning, like, of all the billions upon billions of people on this planet or out in the universe, there's not a soul out there that's exactly like you, that's gone through your experiences, that has gone through your own unique sets of experiences, that even experiences situations the way you do, how you see things, how you approach things, how you show up. That's all uniquely you. So then let me go back to what I shared earlier about the workshop I had gone to, and the instructor talking about not remembering dreams as like a symptom of being not having a sense of purpose. Honestly, like, it for me, it's kind of led me down this path of having to explore within myself, and why I wanted to just, and which inspired this episode where we can explore this together, of the importance of having dreams. Because I think it's not necessarily the case that if you don't remember your dreams that you don't live purposefully, because I'm sure you probably do. I don't know, you probably know the answer more than I do about yourself and where you are with this. But my personal take I would add on that is perhaps it could be a sense that I may be disconnected with my own dreams, my greater purpose in the big picture. I would kind of spin it like that if I were to explain why we don't remember our dreams. But it makes sense, just for me, of just why that happens from time to time. Why I know I dreamed, I went through something, and then I wake up and all of a sudden I just forgot it. And so I think it's important to explore, So those questions that I asked you, if off the top of your head, could you have, would you be able to tell me or a friend that? And as simple as possible? Or perhaps like me, similar in my position, where we're like, I have to think about that actually. Such a loaded question. And it is a loaded question. And that's why, I want to intend for this episode to be an exploration, because it's not like you have to like know it or figure out by now. I think it's something that it's all about. It's a process of clarifying within yourself, much like clarifying your own direction, much like where do you want to go in your life? What do you want to experience more in your life? Like, I think questions like that are a good way of really kind of zeroing in on what's your dream life look like? What would it look like? And I think the sooner you can begin to play with that idea, those questions, and journal in whichever way works best for you, audibly, on paper, maybe you like to use a computer and type. But it's definitely important to kind of to process all of this, because it goes back to what I mentioned earlier about it having to do with the big picture of your life, because you are a creator. And I think it's to in your best interest to align yourself with that big picture. And you can equate it to God's plan, perhaps, if that helps you, if that gets you up out of bed. But it's part of your decision as well. You have a say in it. You know, your dreams is something that you choose, you're responsible for in some ways. It's not all up in God's hands, in my opinion. I think it's something that's co-created together, and not something that's just imposed on you or say set for you type of thing. But I think by just doing the self-discovery, you might have a good sense of what that dream life looks like. And I think for me, I'm taking some time to do that for myself, because what I've understand when I don't take that time to really reconnect with what my dreams are, what are my aspirations, oftentimes what can happen is a bit of FOMO, fear of missing out, or overwhelm. That's a big one. Have you ever experienced overwhelm, my friend? You ever feel like it's just too much stimulation and there's so much going on? It's just like, because when I do feel that, that's when it's like, okay, I need to step outside of my home and I need to walk around, be out in nature. I need a detox from this overwhelm. Can you relate? I had a recent interview with on my podcast with Kathleen Ellis called "Navigating Life with Spirit." If you haven't had a chance, I invite you to come check it out. It's in the listings there. It's one of my recent episodes where she talked about overwhelm, as overwhelm occurs when we don't set priorities for ourselves. And again, priorities being another ingredient to what's your dream life look like. What do you prioritize in your own life? What's truly important to you? And I invite you to consider, if you want to use these questions, or maybe you have your own set of questions, or whichever way you want to go about it. I definitely encourage just really being sincere with yourself about it. And really being just super honest with yourself about it. Because I do believe that it is from that practice of clarifying is what can help us build more immunity to FOMO and that overwhelm. Because there's so much stuff out there, looking in on the phone, on the computer, on the television. There's so much out there, and that's not going to stop. There's always going to be noise out there. And I feel like as an urban monk, you could say, it's in my best interest to really practice and really working with that, navigating the chaos. And that's part of why I do my spiritual practice too, because it's like really bringing the zen, the peace into the chaos, navigating through it all, not trying to separate or avoid, but facing the ebbs and flows, everything that life throws at me, and doing the best that I know how to work through it, to work with it, to roll with the punches. And so some ideas that I'm going to begin to play around with just to give you something to impart with you. I want, as a starting point, I thought about creating a Google document. Maybe you use the notes app on your phone. Maybe you have an Android or an iPhone or something. Or maybe you like to just have a nice notebook, a physical notebook, and just maybe put it there. But like just having a document where I'm just like working through these important questions for myself of like, and really get that super, super clear. Another way of like going about of perhaps, with your dreams and stuff is creating like a vision board. What do you see your dream life looking like? And it's like one of those things where it's like, don't limit yourself. Actually go for it. Like no holding back. What will your dream life really look like? And just pay attention to any limitations or any limiting beliefs that may come up, like, oh, I can never do this or that. And then if they do show up, I would just take a moment to just pause and be like, okay, I'm experiencing this thought right now, but I don't have to accept that. And then just continue working through your own little process of what your dream life looks like. And I want to emphasize checking with I want to emphasize that the whole process thing, because I know for me where I'm at in this situation is like really rechecking with my big picture, rechecking with my dreams, or checking in with myself in that way. Because I do believe that and I think it's healthy that we may have a dream at a certain point of our lives, and then maybe sometime that later down the line it can actually change. You could say that your dream evolves, and that's okay too. Dreams don't have to stay fixed, but it's more indicative of where do you feel gravitated towards? Where do you feel this draw, or where do you feel yourself moving towards often? Another good place to start as well too is like that I'm gonna think about and journal. What are some things in the past that have brought joy to me, that I've enjoyed genuinely a lot? And I think this is where we can get a little bit practical with. I don't know about if you're a fan of using artificial intelligence (AI), but this is something that I've been kind of working with ChatGPT to kind of begin that process, because when I give it my thoughts and feelings and stuff, it can organize it in a way that can help me even take it a step further and deeper for myself. You know, it's like that perfect companion. Like if you don't have somebody to kind of help you work through your own thought process and kind of sifting through and organizing it, moving the pieces around so that you get a clearer picture of your life, it really does help a lot. And I highly recommend, trying it out to help organize. But with AI though, for sure, something that I always remain vigilant is that although AI is super cool, it's never going to replace our heart or our intuition or anything like that. It can throw suggestions and things like that, but at the end of the day, we have to decide and choose for ourselves what resonates, what feels good. What feels good to you, what resonates with you. So I share that with some discretion as well, in this process. Don't want to allow chat to just put everything on you or something like that. It's just like using it to just organize all your thoughts and feelings, bits and pieces here and there, to just in a way that's like, okay, and it can just give you good solid feedback that you can look at and just say, hey, I can actually, okay, tinker with this. Oh, I can add this, do that, which I think is a good balance that can happen with it when using artificial intelligence. And that's just my opinion. That's just a tool that I use for a lot of other things as well too. It helps a lot. It can help make things more smoother and easier. And so, yeah, so I think that's why it's important. I think I'm at this place right now where it's just like really checking in with my own dreams so that I don't find myself really kind of pulled all over the place, because I can't tell you how many times it happens to me. I just like get distracted, or people talk about ADHD and stuff like that, which personally I believe all of us, I think we all have some a bit of ADHD within us, like honestly. And we always treat it as some kind of disorder when really it's not. It's something that's part of the ordinary human experience. I think it's just misunderstood. It really just touches on that it touches on the reality that we're all spiritually sensitive, and we pick up things. We pick up subtle influences in our environment. And if we're not careful and aware, if we don't know any better, we may get ourselves caught up or detoured. And again, that happens. There's so much energy to navigate in this planet. I mean, even in your own neighborhood where you are, in the city where you're at, or maybe not in the city, maybe you're in a rural area, in which case you may not experience as much as FOMO or anything like that. But for me, who's someone in the city, I feel and experience a lot of things, and I pick up a lot of energies very often. And I wouldn't necessarily change it, because I think that's part of my opportunity to work with. It's all there to help me become a master of my own energy, which I think is something that we're all doing in our own ways for ourselves in this school. So whether you're using ChatGPT or not, and just strictly working with your own self, I invite you to just check in with yourself on that, and really just, I want to say, continue that process of clarifying within yourself and come back to it. Because it is in doing more of that that you experience the best of life, of what it has to offer you. Especially when you get that super clean and clear within yourself, it's like the universe just responds, and it's like, okay, cool, I got you, boom. And then things unimaginable, or things that you never thought would have been possible, all these beautiful surprises starts happening, all these blessings starts pouring in. That can really happen. I'm a firm believer of that, and I've experienced that myself. You and I didn't come here to this planet to experience everything, because there's so much out there, and I don't want to experience everything. That's that FOMO energy. I think it's more about just, what do I need? What do I need? What do you need? What do you want? Truly want? What will help you feel fulfilled? When have you felt fulfilled? Nourished? Joyful? Excited? Childlike? So, I hope that I gave you some ideas. Well, I hope I gave you, some good reasons to help you have some concern about it, because I definitely think it's important to have dreams. It's important to have dreams, but then it's also just as important to make those dreams a reality, which you hold the power. You are a dreamer, but then you're also a practical dreamer. You manifest your true heart's desire. You are capable of it, because you are made in God's image. We are all made in God's image. We are created just as He. We have that power and capability. Jesus Himself even said it on multiple occasions. It was part of what He was teaching. So, from talking about dreams to just where we're at right now, it really just goes back to just taking the helm of your own life, and just charting a course for where you want to go, because you can, because you're able to. And if you can organize it in a way, maybe using a document, using the AI tools, or whatever works, whatever helps, then that's something it's helpful to have that as a reference point day in and day out, which I think is going to be a challenge that I'm going to take on for myself, that I'm going to work on. So if I find myself experiencing FOMO or overwhelm or caught up in things, it's like, oh yeah, my dream document, I need to connect with that again. Or maybe you prefer a visual. You can do a vision board. Oh yeah, let me look at my vision board real quick. Let me connect with that. Your dreams can be expressed in a variety of ways. Even a song or a poem, perhaps. You know? There's no limit to how that looks, how that is expressed within you. You know better than anybody else. I just simply want to be a guide in that regard, though, just to help you steer you in the right direction. And I think one of the to kind of close this episode off is like, well, I had this question, but I don't even know if I want to say it. I mean, well, I guess maybe a question perhaps that it could be an additional one is like, what's the big picture of your own life as it relates to your own life lessons and things like that? Again, not the best question now that I think about it. I just said it. You know what? Whatever. I said it. But the big picture is exactly as far as like what I want to impart, and just all this to say is that having that big picture is so crucial to be able to flow through whatever life throws at you. And life will throw things at you. They will throw things at me for sure. But having at least done that, clarifying that, it helps build resilience for whatever life throws at us. But I always remind myself is that I would even expand upon that and say that my life is there for me. And that anything thrown at me is not meant to break me down, but rather to help build me up. Not to resist, but to embrace. Embrace all that God has available to us, in us. And so if you made it this far in this episode, I hope I've given you some inspiration to help you clarify your dreams within yourself so that you can move forward more empowered, more buffered, more clear, moving more conviction in your own life. And continue the beautiful process as well of just like bringing to life your dreams and being open to any changes as you evolve. So too, your own personal direction in your own dreams. And that's cool too. We are, again, just because that's carving the path. That's carving your own path. And that's all. That's one of many things that I would love for any person. That's a good expression of like of true love, of true concern. Like, okay, I want to help this person move in their direction where they need to go for themselves, where they need to go, where they want to go. Because it's so important. If I haven't made it clear at this point in the episode, it's so important. Anyway, this has been another episode of Spiritually Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.